Hey guys, recently I made a video showing how to install OpenMediaVault 5 on a Raspberry Pi 4, and the process was pretty straightforward and easy enough, but I needed something that could push multiple video streams to multiple devices simultaneously with Plex, and unfortunately the Raspberry Pi 4 just isn't quite there for what I need yet. So in this video, I'm going to step it up a little bit and install OpenMediaVault 4 on a solid PC. So the PC I'm going to use is a PC I've shown in previous videos when Gamdias sent me one of their gaming cases. This will have an AMD FX 8350, 16 gigs of RAM, and an NVIDIA GeForce 770 powering this server. So that's what we're going to build on today. I'm going to show you how to set up OpenMediaVault, Plex Media Server, as well as transmission for peer-to-peer sharing. So let's jump over to my desktop and we'll get started on this. Okay guys, so first thing we got to do here is actually download OpenMediaVault. So if we go to openmediavault.org/download.html, we'll be brought to this page, and then right here in tiny blue letters, click here, and that will take us over to SourceForge, where we've got some options to download different versions of OpenMediaVault. They do have different versions for single board computers like Raspberry Pis, that sort of thing, but we're going to be using version 4.1.22. But it's not going to be on a single board computer. This is going to be on a regular PC. So what we'll do is we'll actually download OpenMediaVault 4122-AMD64.ISO. Don't let this AMD 64 thing get in your way. This will work on AMD processors and Intel processors and whatever. As long as it's an x86 or x64 processor, this will work just fine. So go ahead and download that. Then we'll come over to our desktop. We'll open up Etcher and we'll actually start the process of copying that ISO over to our USB drive. Okay, so the first thing we got to do now that we've got our USB created is actually boot from that USB drive. So I'm going to go into my BIOS and go into the boot options and make sure to select the Kingston Traveler that I just created. Make sure you don't use the UEFI version of that, as it probably will throw errors. So just select the regular version there. It'll go into the next screen here where we can click install, and then we'll start going through this install process. So we're going to select our languages and our locations and things like that. This is going to be pretty straightforward, just going through each of these screens, just selecting the default, because what we're doing right now is actually building a configuration file that the system will use to do the installation once we get to the point to select our hard drive that we're going to install to. So here we'll go ahead and select our Ethernet network device. I do have a wireless device in there as well, but Ethernet is definitely the preferred method for what we're doing here since we are creating a home server. Here we're going to give it a name, and that host name, I'm just going to name it Hulk, but the domain name is what's really important here. I'm going to call it hulk.local, and that's actually going to kind of be beneficial to us later on. Here I'm going to give a root password, and I'll re-enter that. And then I'll select my time zone so it knows what time the server should be set to. And here we're actually going to select which hard drive it is we want to use. Here it's saying that there's more than one available, so I want to select this 120 gig SSD that's in there. And here it's just saying, hey, are you sure that's what you want to do? Say yes, and then it goes through the install process, and this should just take a little while. And then again, we're just going to tell it where we are so it knows which server to use to look for any updates that are available. Okay, so now the installation is complete. Now we can go ahead and click continue. It will go through the shutdown process, remove the USB, and then it will boot up for the first time. Cool. So once we're here, we'll just give this a couple of seconds or a couple of minutes to kind of settle in, and then we can go over to our browser and log in for the first time. Okay guys, so now that we've got everything set up, we've rebooted, everything's good to go, the next thing we're going to do is actually open up a browser window. And because I set up the domain name to be hulk.local, I can actually type that into the URL bar there, press enter, and there it is. Otherwise, we'd have to use an IP address to get to here, and IP addresses are finicky sometimes unless you've got a static IP for your device. So setting up a domain name like that really does make it easier in that case. So we'll go ahead and type in our username of admin, and our password for the first login will be OpenMediaVault. And I'm going to say not now. Now, the first thing I want to do here is actually go into general settings, change the auto logout time to something like 60 minutes, and then we'll click save. And then it's going to give us a yellow bar up here saying, hey, you need to press save again, basically. But before I do that, I want to change the password from OpenMediaVault to something that's more relevant to me. And we'll click save. And now we can click apply and say yes. Okay, so now that part of everything there is good to go. Okay, before we get too far into this, what I want to do here is actually run updates. So what you can do in this left column, just click on Update Management, check the box up here under Package Information, and we'll just click Upgrade. Okay, so now that that's done, we can click Close. We'll click Reload, that's fine, but what we actually want to do is reboot. So we'll go ahead and do this. We'll log back in, say not now. We're just going to go ahead and reboot, and we'll say yes. Okay, so now that we've rebooted, we can go ahead and log back in. Next, we can actually go down to disks and make sure that both of our disks are being recognized. dev/SDA, that's my SSD, that's 120 gig SSD there. That's our boot drive. Next, we've got dev/SDB, that's our 6 terabyte drive that's in there as well. So that's good to go. Now, the next thing that we'll want to do is actually go into file systems, and we're going to create a file system here. And we're going to click create, then we'll select our 6 terabyte drive. We'll give this something like files for the label. And this is going to wipe out anything that's on this drive. I do have a full backup of all of my media. I made sure of that before I got started here. So now that I've given it a label of files, and I'm going to use the ext4 file system, oops, now I can just go ahead and click OK. Now it says, do you really want to format this device? All data will be deleted. Please note that some file creation systems may take some time. I'm going to click yes. And then we're just going to wait. And here you can see that it's writing those tables. We've got 44,713 to write. This is actually going pretty quickly, so this shouldn't take too long. Okay guys, so there we go. Just a few minutes later, that drive has been completely overwritten. It's blank, it's ready to go. So we can click close here. We want to go ahead, go into here and click mount. Nothing will work until we actually mount the drive. So go ahead and do that and click apply, and then yes. And there we go. Now we've got access to this drive for some of the other areas where we're going to go. What we'll do is we'll go over here to shared folders, click new. We'll say movies. And we'll go ahead and make sure that it's on this 5 or 6 terabyte drive. We're going to give everybody access to read and write. We'll click save. And we'll say TV. We'll do the same thing here. We'll just kind of run through this a few more times. Click save. Click add. We're going to say kids. Same thing. Oops. And just for the sake of it, I'm also going to add just a files folder there, just so I can have just a general file repository. And I can go ahead and say everybody there as well. And then we can click apply up here and say yes. So now I've set up movies, kids movies, and TV, those 3 folders, because that's how I'm going to organize my media for my Plex server. You may do this differently than I've done it, but this is just how I've done it for my purposes. And then we'll go over here to SMB CIFS, make sure that that's enabled and click save. Then we can go to shares, add a share, say files, public is going to be only guests, click save. Do the same thing here. We're going to, for kids, only guests, movies, and TV shows, and save. And that's all good there. So we'll go ahead and click apply and yes. Okay, so the next thing we're going to want to do is actually upload OMV extras. We're on version 4 here, so we'll go ahead and do that. Go ahead and download that. Upload, browse, downloads. And then we'll go ahead and install. So now that we've got our OMV extras here that we didn't have just a moment ago, we can actually go in and turn on Plex. Okay, so now we're still not seeing Plex over here. So what we're going to do is go to plugins, and now we'll go ahead and click or type in Plex up here. Check that. We'll click install, and we'll say yes. Okay, so that's done. Now it's going to reload again. And now over here you can see we've got Plex Media Server. So we'll go ahead and click on that. We're going to go ahead and enable. We're going to say our database volume is going to be there. And we'll go ahead and click save. Of course, we'll give this just a second and we'll click apply and we'll say yes. So go into the next browser or next tab over, type in 32400/web/index.html. And we'll go ahead and sign in. Yep, that's fine. So it found a server, found the right one. We'll go ahead and do that. That's fine. Yep, that looks good. Add a library, say movies, add folder. There we go. So now movies is an option. So we can select that, click add. And then we'll click add, and then we'll do another one, and we'll do movies. But this will be kids movies. And we'll say add, browse, kids, okay, add, and we'll do one more for TV shows. TV, and add. So we've got those 3 directories available to us now. We'll click save, done. Now this is pulling up from an old server that I'm actually getting rid of because it just wasn't powerful enough for what I wanted to do. So now if I come over here, now we can see Hulk is up here at the top. We've got kids movies, and TV shows. Of course, if I go in here, there's nothing in there because I haven't put anything in any of those directories. Okay, so in order to put some movies on the new server that we've just put together, what we'll do is we'll go //, we'll type in hulk.local. We'll give that a second. Now you can see that I've got those 4 folders that we created and shared. We've got our files, kids, movies, and TV. So for instance, with files, if I had, say, something on my desktop, so I've got this OpenMedia file or OpenMediaVault file, this ISO that we used earlier. I'm just going to drop that in the files directory. And that's all you have to do in order to copy files from your computer over to the new server. Now you can see here that I've already done that with this collection of movies here for the kids folder. So if I come back over here to hulk.local on port 32400, you can see that I've got Hulk over here. I've got kids movies, I've got movies, and I've got TV shows. Now I haven't put anything in either of these movies or TV show folders, but if I go to kids movies, here you can see the movies that it has found. These are the recommended movies. Recommended is the tab open by default. But if I go to library, oops, and if actually, because it only picked up some of those, I go scan library files. So now it went from 9 to 23, and it's still thinking. And while it's thinking, it's going to keep looking through here. It's going to start pulling in artwork and that sort of thing. So any movies and any TV shows that you put in there or on your server in these folders for kids, movies, and TV. You may not have a kids folder. I just wanted something that I could give my kid access to only his movies. So that's why I broke that out the way I did. So here you can see it's still working in the background. It's still pulling in posters and things like that. So I'm going to go ahead and turn my volume down. But then if we go over and let's say we want to, let's say we wanted to watch Brave, we could just click that. And give it a second to load. And then Brave should start playing here in just a moment. Now keep in mind I am having it do quite a bit right now while it's scanning this directory, but it looks like it's going to just pick up and play just like that. So keep in mind, once your server has settled in, once you've found all your files, that sort of thing, that will be much, much faster. So while that's playing in the background, we can actually come over here to our dashboard and we can take a look at the bandwidth that we're using, both remote, which is this blue line down here. We're not doing anything remotely, but we've got a local bandwidth monitor here. You can see how it's doing its thing there. If we scroll down a little bit further, we can see the CPU usage for the Plex Media Server. That's what we're in right now. That's this green bar. You can also see kind of a pink bar in there that shows the CPU usage for the rest of the system. So it is doing just fine there. There was a bit of a spike there, but you can see it's settling in rather nicely. And then down here, we can see our RAM usage, again, for Plex Media Server and the system. And of course, we've got 16 gigs of RAM in here, so it will probably never even come close to that. Now, the next thing I want to take a look at adding is transmission. And we'll go ahead and say, we'll check that box. We'll click install. We'll say yes. Okay, so we'll go ahead and click done. The page will reload.
You're in luck. We have one left.
So now we've got transmission over here. So we'll go ahead and click on that. Of course, we'll enable that and we'll click save. Oh, right. So we want to go over here to files and locations. For a shared folder, we'll just go ahead and click files. And then in here, we'll say download. And then we can actually do the same thing for this. We'll go ahead and say files. Directory, we'll say incomplete. And I'm not sure, hopefully this will actually create the folders that we need. If not, we can go in and create them manually. So that's not a big deal. If it doesn't, we'll go ahead and click on save. We'll click apply and we'll say yes. So now let's see if we can go back. Let's make sure everything here looks good. It's fine. Okay. Shouldn't need to change any of this. Here we do want to actually enable the web interface. I like to have that available to me. I'm going to go ahead and change this password and we'll say save. Okay, so in order to get a transmission to work, we told it to make sure that it's got the download folder, the incomplete folder, and the watch folder. So what we're going to do is actually go back over to our file explorer here under a hulk.local. We're going to go into here and we're going to create 3 folders. We're going to create download. We're going to create incomplete. and we're going to create watch. Just like that. And that's all we've got to do for that. So what we'll do then, now that all of this is working, what we can do is if we go over to this, what we're going to look for is this port number right here. So what we'll do is we'll go to hulk.local and we'll say 9091, press enter, and then we get this very basic looking screen here. And this is the point at which you can upload your peer-to-peer files to have them connect, and this acts as a peer-to-peer connection software. Okay guys, there you go. There is setting up OpenMediaVault for Plex and Transmission on an x86 platform. So overall, it's a pretty simple process. Realistically, you can do it in about 20 or 30 minutes, but kind of going through and explaining things as I was going obviously took a little longer. So there were several chunks in there that I shrunk down just so you guys wouldn't have to sit through everything. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up here. Of course, if you've got questions or comments or any of that kind of stuff, leave that in the comment section down below and I'll get back to you as soon as I possibly can. But with all that being said, thanks for your time. I always appreciate your support, and I'll talk to you in the next video.